again for live stream. Sorry, we have Angie here. She looked like she wanted to jump on my lap. I'm like, girl, right when I'm about to start working. Um, so yeah, I know I have not been on live stream in a while. I think since probably Thursday, I did another guitar practice or guitar set run through essentially. Um, and yeah, so much has happened since then. Um, I'm finally on here a little early. I'm going to be doing a work with me or watch me work, child, watch me work, which I haven't done like at all last week. Because last week, I don't know, it was one of those weeks where I was just like, I don't know, I was just in a weird space. It was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a mix of laziness, but also just like being energetically like needing to recharge and just kind of get myself together. Because I was like in a mood. Um, so yeah, but I mean, I'm better now. Hopefully, we can maintain this. But some exciting things have happened since my last uh, live stream. Um, I performed at a show this weekend, and I had already I mentioned it through the live streams. I wasn't like specific about it just because, you know, they say like move in silence. You know, if everybody know you move, you ain't got to worry about people messing your stuff up, right? So yeah, I guess you know that's kind of where am right now until like I have like a tour or something where it's like the dates will be posted. And plus, like I didn't want to share it like depending on how it went. So there's that. But I had a show this weekend, which I was informed that it would be televised, but it didn't really like hit me like until like as it was kind of happening. Um, or I knew it was going to be recorded, and you know I know that they have like like recordings of previous ones and stuff like that, but I didn't know it was going to be like televised like on TV. Um, so I guess that was kind of like a big deal. For me, it's like my first official televised performance, and I'm actually like a little nervous and shook about that. Mainly because it didn't go exactly how I expected it. But I mean, it was still good though. Like I'm still proud of it. But it makes me want to like get my shit together, which is pretty much me every day. Um, but yeah. So I'm just gonna briefly talk about that before getting into the work that I have to do, because I got on the computer and what's the name? I started prepping a document for inventory, and which you know I have to update because I know I did a live stream of me organizing my inventory last week, no, the week before last, um, and then at this event, you know, I was able to, you know, um, put some, you know, sell some merchandise, right? So yeah, so I was excited about that. But the thing is, yeah, so okay, we'll get into that. We'll get into that, right? Um, so the performance was Saturday. Um, and something that I wanted to be intentional about was making sure I was there early. Because I was scheduled to go on at 9, and and I know in one of the emails it was mentioned that there was like, you know, they have like different people scheduled for different times. And they, you know, say get there by like a certain time or whatever. And then, um, mind you, I didn't really realize the time because I was waiting for the email, but apparently I got it and I didn't see the notification for it. So I didn't see the official email with like the specified information until like a few days beforehand, which I was expecting because I know they said we'll send the email this time, and this time, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'm waiting for this, like the second one or whatever. Either way, I got the information. And I was like, okay, so I'm going on at this time. And then there was another thing about the person before me was going to be canceled, right? And so I was like, okay, or their performance slot was canceled, let's say. And so I'm like, okay, cool. But with that in mind, I was like, all right, well then that's like a random gap of space before my performance. And I know like in the email it was like, for the different performers or whatever, um, they can use up more time. And so I'm like, okay, cool. But then it was already in my mind and in my intention to make sure I get there early. Just so I have time to set up, because they said like, if you have like stuff for your streaming and stuff like that, then you can put that online. I mean, not online, sorry. You could put that on like a table and have your stuff displayed. So, like, if you have like CDs or something like that. Y'all know I've been sitting up here putting together my merch for like this past like few months now. And I didn't, and I also bought my table. So I have like a plastic table set up, right? And so I knew that I was going to be bringing like a lot of stuff, because I had like the sage and all that stuff with me. And so I was like, I didn't want to take up like too much of the space. I didn't know what the table setup was going to be. I know they mentioned it, so I wanted to be mindful of that. And um and so yeah, so I did that, right? And so I had my table just in case. And so I ended up getting there maybe like 45 minutes before I was scheduled to perform. I know they said get there like 30 minutes early. I wanted to be there earlier than that. But what ended up happening, mind you, the whole day I was like prepping for this. I was like, I didn't want to like sing too much just because I wanted to preserve my voice. And I was like, okay, I was still figuring out like what I was gonna wear, like what is it gonna give, what's the fit gonna give. And mind you, I didn't take any pictures. So I'm like, girl, and I didn't realize that until after I got home. I'm like, girl, you ain't taking pictures of you get set up or nothing like that. But there is footage of the performance, which I'll get into. So I'm like, let me just like bring this down a little bit, because I'm like, and then actually my lips are a little bit dry. Um, Give me a second. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Um, I feel like I just had this lip gloss on me. Oh, here it is. Okay, with my beauty stuff. Okay. So, so yeah, the whole day I was like trying to like prep enough in advance and like have all the things together. Like, making sure my nails were cut so I can play the guitar, and I don't have to worry about like, my, nails getting in the way. Cause honestly, it does affect how I play. So I was like, okay, let me make sure my nails are cut, because I noticed they were growing recently. I mean, they're always growing, but I was just like, okay, keep that in mind, right? And so not only that, but just making sure I had like the set list together, and just like, different elements that I wanted to include. Cause like, okay, so I know I had been doing the guitar practices on live, right? And so, um, sorry, it's like trying to, what? We just gonna Sade this together. Okay. And yes, I did. Mind you, I had to do my hair too, even though I ended up wearing a hat. Um, which is funny. This is like I had the day planned for me to do my hair the day before, and make sure my hair was done. But I ended up wearing two hats actually, because I know some folks like to make fun of the fact that I speak on make wearing multiple hats, and I literally wore multiple hats and made it a look. Because I mean, would it be me if I didn't? So yeah, so I was putting all the details together. Um, you know, Putting the look together, making sure I had everything I needed. I started packing the car a little bit early, just to make sure I know the stuff that I didn't need later on, because I was gonna do like a brief sound check just to make sure like the guitar was tuned, and like the settings were everything that I wanted it to be. Um, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait to pack that just because I needed to do my own like quick sound check, which I almost forgot about before heading out. So it's like, I'm slowly but surely like learning the process of what it takes for me to, prep a show. And especially as a one woman situation, because it's like I want to have an aesthetic, I want to have a vibe. So like I had my flower decor, and I wasn't sure of how I was going to do it because I brought tape, just so it can like stay on the microphone stand, because like branding and like aesthetics, but more aesthetics than anything, right? It was more of a vibe. And um and you know and so I brought tape, but I ended up having tape in the wrong bag, but I was able to kind of just like sit it on the mic stand. So I was just trying to be intentional about all these things because when I perform, like I want it to be an experience. I was watching this interview with Offset and Ebro for Apple Music, and I think Offset, he made a really good point about being your performance being an experience. It's one thing to just run the stage and do the songs and perform it, but like what is the experience? And for me, I've always been intentional about that, like even back in Down to Mars days, like it's funny because when I think back to one of the Aquarian Revolutions was a show that we would do in celebration of our birthdays, because both of us were Aquarius. Our Aquarius birthdays can't change, right? Okay, anyway, so yeah, and I had this whole idea of like how I wanted the show to go. I was, um, I had like, I was in my mind, I was like creative directing the performance without realizing that that's what I was doing. And I have like these Philips Hues lights that change colors. And so I had like the lights set for each song, and I wasn't able to get it to work the day of the performance. And so afterwards, I was like, oh my gosh, this didn't work out. This didn't work out. This didn't, but then like everybody enjoyed it though. Everybody said we did a good job and it was really dope. And it was a better turnout than we expected it to be, because initially I wanted us to perform in like a bigger room in this particular venue. And I guess the club owner underestimated us, which was good because it worked in our favor, and it made it look better, because so we ended up performing in like the bar area. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is messing up my whole idea. I had it all set up how I wanted it to, how do I wanted it to be. I wanted the lighting to look like this. I wanted us to stand like this. I wanted to wear this. It was like I think about all these details. I mean, hello, I'm a Beyonceologist. I'm a student of the best. So with the little budget that I got, I try to make it a thing. But anyway, we was in a little corner or whatever. But it was cool though, because we ended up like packing out the event, and it was like, everybody was packed, people that was already going to be there plus the people that was there for us. And it was a great turnout. But when I think back to that, I'm doing the same thing for this show that I did then. Was like looking at all the shit that didn't go right, because you have your idea and your vision of what you want your performance to be, and sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, right? And so for me, like, I try to be intentional about all these details. So I had the flowers for the mic stand. I knew what I was gonna wear. And different elements that I wanted to include in a performance that I didn't practice here on the guitar Tuesday guitar practice. Just because, I'm sure there might be some people that be watching here and then might watch and, try to see like, okay, this what the performance gonna look like. She gonna do this song and she gonna do it just like this in this order. So, as much as I do share on here, there are some elements to my performance that I do want to be somewhat of a surprise, something that feels like intimate to the people who are there watching me live, and intentional too, because and I added an element of I wanted to engage with the audience. I wanted to talk with them. I didn't just want to sit and sing. I wanted to connect with the people there, and also like add an element of healing. So I did like a sound bowl performance at the end, which I know you guys haven't seen me do here, which I might start incorporating that in the live streams. But I wanted there to be an element of healing, just because of just like the climate of everything that's been going on in the world right now. And I mentioned that in my performance, just like with the war that's happening with Palestine and Israel, and the shooting that happened in Maine, and just like day-to-day stuff that we go through in our lives. It's just so much. Hatred and negativity is so mainstream right now, and even now, every once in a while, like, I'll get caught up into that. Not necessarily like hatred, but just like rage and frustration of the state of the world, and just wanting us to be in a more unified space as people. Um, so yeah, and I wanted to include like a moment of healing, and being intentional of um, you know making my performance be something that's a moment of transparency, because I performed Aloe. I mean, I didn't perform Aloe. I performed Alumni and Otherwise, which aren't necessarily positive songs. They were written from a place of like frustration and feeling misunderstood and feeling trapped in all these things. But those are real emotions. But I also included other songs that um, highlighted love and highlighted um, you know healing. So, or at least that was my intention, right? Um, so yeah, there was that, right? But basically I was there. I made it there on time. I made it there like a few minutes before the space of the canceled performer. And so I was able to like set up my table section, because it was a group table, but luckily like I had stuff ready just in case I needed to set up my own table, because I knew, I was like, look, I got my CDs and my merchandise and all this stuff, and I want to be able to have everything kind of like laid out, but I didn't want to take up too much space, so I made sure to have at least like one of everything out, and like my business cards and stuff like that. And honestly, like, it's funny because like I prepare for this, but sometimes it like shocks me when people actually support. I mean, whether it's like genuine or not, I don't know. But at the same time, I'm still grateful nonetheless that people felt so inclined to purchase a CD. So quite a few people bought CDs, and somebody bought a flash drive, which I'm really excited about. I would say their name, but just for the sake of their privacy, shout out to them. Um, but yeah, it was really dope. And I mean, there was like underlining shenanigans kind of happening, in certain things that I could have been concerned about, but I wasn't. I was just like trying to really be in my zone, but then also like this is a new space for me. Like I haven't, like, I've been to the place before, but I hadn't been where the performance was happening or to this event. So I was like learning and trying to you know listen to the other artists, as well as like setting my stuff up, and and also be like helpful. I didn't want to just be there and take while I was there. I wanted to also give. So I wanted to support some of the other artists, and stayed after a little bit and try to help out, even though I only got to like wrap up one wire. But I think it's important to give back in spaces where you might be like taking up space in a way. Not that I'm taking up space in a negative way, like because it's there for me to take up. But and plus like it was a free, performance. It wasn't like it was a paid show, but because people supported me and bought some of my products and stuff like that. I was already gonna try to find a way to, help out, but like it just like added that sense of like, okay, I can't just leave this space and just like not give something. I mean, aside from the fact that I'm giving my energy and my voice and my art, right? And you know, but yeah, yeah, and plus, like, I guess for me, it's like I know this is just the right thing to do, but I feel like because I've made that mistake before in spaces and with relationships and people, and feeling like I didn't give enough while I was there. So now it's like a learned thing for me to be intentional about, when I'm in a space, like, what's the impression that you're leaving? Were you just there to take, or were you there to to help and give and be of value while you're there? So I try to be intentional about that. Um, But yeah, so like, all of that was happening, right? And because I was able to sell some products, um, I have to update my inventory. And so that's why I'm here. But okay, so like, just to kind of like end on this note. So honestly, now that I'm like thinking back on it, there was more positives than like negatives in my mind. Like, I mean, there was other stuff going on that could have been um like triggering for me or whatever, but I was just really focused on my mission. And my mission, like I told myself, I'm like, Narice, be of service. Like, don't be so concerned about like the environment. And like, of course, like, you don't want to be in environments that don't feel like it aligns with your vibration, or you don't want to do anything that feels forced, or be somewhere where you're not welcomed. But I feel like I've felt that way everywhere. um, in a lot of spaces, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm trying my best here, like, and I felt like, okay, maybe I'm getting that feeling in spaces that I'm not supposed to be in because it's not in alignment with my purpose with music. And then I'll get in creative spaces and still feel that resistance. And and it's frustrating, and sometimes it could be discouraging, and it feels like, okay, well, I know I have this talent, I know I'm an artist, and and I feel like I understand, like, you have to earn your space, and and I shouldn't feel entitled to success regardless of whether people know of me or not, or whatever the case may be. Like, I want to work and earn my space, but it's sometimes it could be frustrating where you feel like, okay, the spaces that should be for you, especially like as a Black woman, as a creative, and then you feel resistance in those spaces where it's like, okay, this is supposed to be my demographic, or at least so I think so, and I'm not feeling seen and heard here. And and so, I mean, when you feel that way in so many spaces, you not that you get used to it, but I don't know, I just, and the thing is, like, I could have gave up a long time ago and just be like, okay, well, nobody wants what I have to offer, so why even try? But I don't know. I just like I just feel like that's not what I'm supposed to do. And every now and then, like, I'll get a sign of that, like, keep going, don't give up, and you're in the right path. So I try to remind myself that. And I guess my approach this time was just thinking like, okay, regardless of what happens, just be of service, regardless. So, whether you're received well or not, or, you know, whatever, regardless of the energy that anybody else brings, be in tune with what you bring, and know that I'm going to this space with the intention of, sharing my gift, um, being an example of love and light, and offering healing. And, and honestly, if I'm getting so much, you know, resistance, not that I need to seek the approval or the validation of these people, but maybe those are the people that need what I have to offer. Those people who give me a hard time, or, can be a little bit combative, or whatever the case may be. Maybe that's, I need to be of service to those people, and see past my own frustrations, and, you know, offer the gift of song anyway, because I know the power of music can save and change lives, and then offer an element of healing. So, and that's why I felt inclined to like include the singing bowl as a part of my performance. And it's something that I've dabbled with and thought to do a while ago, but I was like, you know what? And I intentionally, well, before intentionally, I felt like spirit led me to specifically use my singing bowl for the heart chakra. Just because I know I need it. I'm really trying to do work to heal my heart, and, and open up and know that, there is love in this world. There are people who want the best for you. There are positive, uplifting, encouraging people, and I have to open myself up to be able to receive that when it's there. And then also I have to give that, and I have to open myself up to be able to give that, and also be willing to, bring down my guard a little bit to give that. Um, and then also whoever in the audience might need that, whatever they got going on. They might have their own thing going on in their own personal lives. And, and I just feel like I said before, with the climate of everything that's happening in the world, I feel like we all can use healing with our heart. And yeah, and so that's why I wanted to end on that note. And I say this to say, even though I was thinking of like, when I think back to it, I like messed up one of the songs, which I was so upset about because it was like one of my easier songs. But the thing is, I hadn't practiced that song enough. So I ended up doing Head Over Heels, but I messed up the guitar part. I'm gonna try to see if maybe they can edit that out. I don't know. I hope, maybe, possibly. Um, but and mind you, I messed up and like I like sometimes I'm able like I'll flub a note or whatever, but I'm able to like kind of like catch myself. I like was like so off the chord, like my finger shape, and I knew to like be in the element of like what felt comfortable to me. So I sat down, and every now and then like I can, depending on how I felt with the song, like I can still look in the audience, but then every now and then like look at the guitar, because even like skilled guitarists still like look at the guitar as they're playing sometimes, and even then like and I know there were certain things kind of happening that could have like affected me being like nervous or whatever, but it wasn't that. It was just like I know I didn't practice enough, because regardless of anything moving on around me, I know like I'm centered within my own power, and I know within my own power I did not practice enough, and regardless of what was happening. But I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it's funny because you know when you're performing, and then sometimes things happen in the background and there's like distractions that's happened, I already kind of brace myself for that. Like I already know like, okay, somebody could be walking in while I'm in the middle of chorus, something, somebody could drop something or whatever the case may be. But something that actually kind of threw me off in a good way was when people would like kind of like clap along to the music, or like stomp along, and I was like, oh, that's different. And so and I guess for me that was it didn't throw me like super off, but it was like it was unexpected. Even though like when people enjoy the music, like you clap along, and I do that with other artists, but it was just like, oh shit, okay. And then I had to like stay on beat, and know that like people are following my beat. So and I have to lead the beat and stay on the beat and not fuck it up. But yeah, it was an interesting moment. But yeah, and so after the event, I was just so caught up in like me messing up one of the songs, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I fucked this song up, and this was supposed to be my easy song, like girl, how, you know? And but then in me like reviewing it right now and just kind of like sharing it with you guys, I'm like, there were so many like other things that were like more on the positive side that happened. And like there was other things too that like could have been like a thing for me to like highlight in terms of like other people like vibes or whatever like that. But I'm not gonna resonate too much on that. I'm trying my best to like highlight the positives. And of course you don't want to be naive and like you don't want to overlook some of the negatives, because it's like, okay, you want to peep the vibes and be make sure, but also I want to make sure I highlight the positives, and pay attention to that and see the beauty of the event. So even though in that moment and at the end of the show I was like, damn, I fucked this up, this and that, but now I'm just like, okay, let's highlight the positive though. And you know what, and it was really cool because like after I was packing everything up and I was going in my car, I can see it was like a full moon this weekend too. And I could see the moon, and it was like this rainbow over the moon. And the last time I seen a rainbow over the moon, okay, well, actually, I seen a rainbow over the sun a few days ago, but it was like 2020. It was like the last full moon of 2020, and I have a picture of the moon, and it was like a rainbow ring over it. It was kind of like that. I think I took a picture of it, but I don't know if I have it on here. Probably not. I think I took it on a different device. Um, yeah, but either way, um, I'm trying to think. Like I'm mentioning it, but I would want to show you guys. Either way, it's fine. Or no, actually, okay. So I'll show you guys the picture that I took of the moon. And then when I took the picture of the moon, I was like, damn, I didn't take any pictures tonight. Because I was just like on like work mode. I was like, trying to pay attention to the other artists, but then at the same time, um, okay, no, it wasn't this. Child, I got so many motherfucking posts. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, it was so cool. All right, so this is kind of like what it looks like. Oh, you guys probably can't see it that well. But or maybe if I could like zoom it in a little bit. Nah, this shit looks trash on here. Okay. Well, basically, oh no, not that way. It was like a ring over the moon, and then there's me, um, me and the moon. Um, but yeah, and it was really cool because like right at the end of the night, as I was packing everything up, and I just look up, and it was like, this rainbow over the moon, and yeah, and it was just like, I don't know, it just felt like a universal confirmation, like, okay, Nerisse, you're on the path, despite whatever challenges and adversities that kind of happen along the way. Like, keep going, don't give up, which I feel like if anybody had a right to give up, it was me. I wish my circumstance would be like, oh, I'm just like dealing with rejection, where like normal artists deal with like, okay, you're trying to hit the pavement, you're trying to get your art off the ground, you're trying to get into these spaces, and you just deal with people either like rejecting you or maybe just like slight, gatekeeping. Child, I feel like my circumstances like that times a lot more. And I don't know, like I think things are like slowly but surely kind of like working itself out. I'm trusting that, and I'm trying to resonate in the feeling of what that feels like. Like, okay, Nerisse is going to work out. And just trust that, even if you don't see it yet. And yeah, so I was like, and the thing was like, okay, so for you to get the performance, they were like selling like a DVD of the show. And I think it was like $10, and I didn't have any cash on me. And so I was like, ooh, well, I mean, well, maybe at the end I'll like just pay with my card. It didn't even like register to me that I could possibly make sales. I do all the things to like prepare myself, but sometimes it even like baffles me when it actually works. So like I had all my products and everything. I had my CDs and stuff. And I was able to sell more things than I expected, honestly. I didn't have honestly, I didn't even have a goal in mind. I had a goal when I was doing inventory of like what I would like to make, but the day of the event, I was just like, okay, I gotta have my guitar, I gotta have all my stuff ready, I gotta make sure these songs is right, I sound good, my voice is together. I'm just thinking about the logistics of everything. And then, for people to actually like, purchase some of my stuff, I was just like, it took me back a little bit. And for someone to buy the flash drive, and y'all know the work that I put into these flash drives. If you don't, I have a playlist on my YouTube page, and on Kick. If anybody's watching on Kick, you can scroll back to the beginning. That's literally why I even started live streaming in the first place. And it took me 2 weeks to put those flash drives together. So to see it come to fruition where someone actually like purchased the flash drive, I'm like so excited and proud about that. So yeah, yeah. It was really cool. But and honestly, it wasn't even just about like the sales, like, oh, I'm making money. It was more so like this thing that I'm building is working. It's happening. Like, you're doing the thing, Maurice. It's like, okay, you had a performance. You did a great job vocally. We'll say that. The guitar was okay, and it really, and honestly, it pushed me to be like, all right, I need to get my shit together as a musician. It's just, so many things. I got to do inventory. I got to do this. I got to check my credit, and my credit score went up. Well, according to Experian, but I'll take it though, because I know sometimes people say, oh, like, don't fall for the numbers or whatever. But the numbers are working in my favor, so I'm going to take that. So, shout out to the good things that are happening. Despite the circumstances, I just got some unfortunate news in regards to a passing in my family earlier today. And, it's just like, it's unfortunate. And I know it's like around that time of like, it's like Halloween and all these things. But, and mind you, it was like people were out trick or treating and everything. But I haven't like done anything related to Halloween in a long time. But I was more so focused on like, okay, what's the positive? And and yeah, and just like when life is happening and there's so many things going on, and sometimes you could be in a negative space, like, I'm really grateful that God gifted me with the ability to always lean towards the silver lining at like in the craziest of circumstances. Like, I mean, there's definitely moments where I feel my rage and I feel frustration, and I would wonder, like, why me, Lord? Why? I definitely have those emotions. But, you know, all in all, even in moments where I feel like giving up, I'm just like, but you want to keep going though. So like, and I don't know, I just share that one because it's like an update on what I've been doing. But also, like, regardless of anything that you're going through, whatever that looks like, whether it's stuff with your family or just work, life, keep going, don't give up on yourself. And you know every circumstance that you ever been through, as long as you keep going, you're gonna make it through. And then I also often think of the universal law of polarity. And and just I envision it as like a pendulum. And there's things that happen in seasons. Like sometimes you, there's the flow of the events that may be positive, and the events that are, that can be negative. It happens with everybody, and it looks different for everyone. But knowing that if things swing negative, eventually it's going to have to swing to the positive. you know and then, also in regards to that, I think of this interview. Well, not interview. It was like a Hollywood Reports. How they have like the table reads, or well, not table read. It's like a table interview in a way, with different people depending on what the theme is, like directors of Oscar nominated movies this year. And then it's like a table of all the directors that's made a splash that year, right? And there was this one video in particular with Robert De Niro, and he was saying, when you go through life, just be cool. You know what I mean? Like, just stay, like, essentially, like, stay balanced, because you're going to get the highs and you're going to get the lows. When you get the lows, stay cool. Don't let it drag you down. And then when you get the highs, like, of course, be grateful for them and, receive it. But know that, it's not always going to be there. Everything flows. There's ups and downs in life. There's people that come and go. But, just stay cool and stay balanced. And, and and that also reminds me of another thing. that I've, these little nuggets of knowledge. Um, I believe it was a monk that said this. I forget his name, but he's pretty well known. But he was saying, what he was saying, that same idea, but for emotions, like, don't let anybody, like, emotionally bring you up or down. Even though, like, of course we love compliments, and and if you get affirmations and validation and stuff like that, like, it's good to receive that, but don't let that be something that moves you. you know Meaning, because if somebody can move you up, they can move you down. So if they know that they can say this particular thing and say these things that's going to make you feel like, oh my god, me, and get you hyped up, they can manipulate that in a negative way too. And of course, and I say this in a way where it's like, of course you want to be grateful, especially if it comes from a genuine place. If people are genuinely, like, being supportive and affirming you, and pouring into you and loving on you, like, of course receive that. But just me speaking as a musician and as an entrepreneur, and just different experiences that I've been through, there are people who will, say those kind things, but have, agendas. And but it's just a matter of staying balanced, and knowing that you can receive the compliments and the positive, but know that you validate yourself, and know that that within yourself, and you have that confidence and that security within yourself. So with or without that affirmation, you're good, and you're enough. So even when somebody comes in a negative space and they say, they try to tear you down and say you're not good enough, you're not a good person, you're not worthy, you're so secure within yourself, nobody can move that. Like, of course words hurt from time to time, but it doesn't affect how you view and feel within your own spirit. So staying balanced in that way, right? um so I don't know, I kind of go on this whole tangent to say, you know usually I would, like, highlight the negative, but I'm grateful for the positive of that event. But I'm kind of like, I'm in a neutral space where it's like, okay, I can recognize the mistakes that I made. So now I know, all right, this time I really got to practice guitar and do it consistently, and really get to a point. So, like, I say that to say, like, all right, my next guitar practice is probably going to be like how I started it in the beginning, was like, I did one song for an hour, and I did that with Aloe and Otherwise, and those were the stronger songs of the night. And wait, what did I say? Aloe? I keep saying Aloe. That's because they both start with AL. Anyway, Alumni. Alumni, one is just naturally easier to play that song. It's not really a shape change. It's kind of like it sounds complex, because of how I strummed the song, but it's not hard to play. But I'm comfortable playing that song, which is the point. And then I often think of this clip of Prince. I know I mentioned it in one of my earlier live streams, but I'll say it again. Where I'm pretty sure it was Jimmy Jam or Terry Lewis. I think it was Jimmy Jam. He was talking about working with Prince and how they would rehearse songs repeatedly over and over again. And he was like, why do we keep doing these same songs? And he was like, because so when we get to the show, you don't have to think about it. It's just second nature for you, and you could just perform it. And that's when you can have fun. And then he started pushing them to do choreo to it. He's like, okay, well, I'm just playing the keys right here. I don't know why he got me doing these steps. But and he was like, okay, well, you stand there playing the keys, we all doing choreo. Not just me, you too. you know and then he'll be like, okay, well, why are you playing it the same that's on the record? He was like, I'm just practicing the song how we've been practicing. He's like, all right, well, switch it up, like freestyle a little bit. And essentially what he was saying was that, each thing, once he was like comfortable with the thing, Prince would kind of always push him to that next elevation as a performer. And so that's why by the time they got with Janet, if you've seen some of the performances, or even I think the music video for Control, they're out there playing the the pianos where you could play it over your shoulder, and they doing the steps with Janet, and not many people will do that, but that training with Prince being like, okay, yeah, sure, you can play, but can you do the choreo with us? Okay, and yeah, you can play and do the choreo. Why are you playing the same part? Switch it up, but just pushing them to elevate as an artist. But that it's that repetition, because I always have that in the back of my head, and I know I got to do that. Um, so, and I feel like that's the most effective way for me to practice. So, it's just recently I did it in the format of like figuring out what songs I want to perform, and then like getting used to playing songs back to back as if it were a set list, so I can get comfortable doing that. But I think I want to, being that I don't have a performance coming up that requires me to play guitar, I want to go back to that practicing format. So this guitar practice, tomorrow, I'll probably just do like one song and play that on repeat. It'll just be like an hour loop. And then if I practice for like a few hours, depending on, we'll see how the night goes. But if I practice for a few hours, then, it'll probably be a song an hour. So that's probably how I'm gonna do that. Just because like I'm just so upset about how my guitar playing was. Um, and I'm like hearing all these other people that play guitar and they play acoustic, and I'm like, I can be better. And I've been playing guitar for like a few years now. But the thing is, I'm not consistent with it. And it's not that I'm not consistent because I don't want to be. I mean, there is a little bit of like laziness with that, because it's like times where it's like, okay, I'm on my phone scrolling social media. I could be practicing right now. But also, like, because I'm wearing two hats, because I'm the musician as well as the visual artist as well as the entrepreneur. And so, sometimes it's like I want to focus solely on guitar. But, I'm shaping these practices based on the things that I have coming up. And so I think with the next performances I have, well, the next performance I have, I'm going to be performing with a band, so I don't really have to like worry too much about guitar. I don't know if he's gonna put me on the spot or something like that. I don't know. He said bring a guitar everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try. But I know like there's gonna be a band there, so it's not like heavy pressure for me to be on guitar. So now I can focus on that performance. But while I do at least do my weekly guitar practices on here, I do want to make sure I'm like honing that in and getting more comfortable with these songs and playing chords to a point where I don't have to think about it. Like Alumni is one of those songs for me where it's like, okay, I can, I don't always have to look down on the guitar and play it. I could just like feel it and just perform it. And that's what every song needs to be like. um so yeah, so I can recognize my mistake in that way, but then also highlight the positives of, had my products ready, when I did my inventory and I packed the bags ready, I got there on time, or I got there early, and I started my email list, which was a note for myself that I've had, like making sure I capture emails, because I know that's going to be the thing. And that's another task too. Newsletter. I don't know if I'm going to do the newsletter now. We'll see how long it takes for me to do inventory. I'm talking way more than I wanted to, but just to kind of give you guys like an update on how that performance went. So it is going to be televised. We'll decide if I'm gonna like share where it's gonna be at. I'm gonna try to reach out to them and say like, can y'all edit some of this? I mean, there were definitely moments that were like solid and good. I think it was like overall a good performance. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. It's just because I'm a perfectionist. That's the thing that's gonna stick with me. But I'm pretty sure like there were really solid and good moments throughout the performance. I mean, hello, like people wanted to, like I was able to sell like 3 different um pieces of merchandise of the Divine EP. I sold 2 CDs and a flash drive. So I mean, clearly like something was good. It's just like I'm so hard on myself and I'm so used to myself. So I guess for other people it's like, oh my gosh, wow, this is so cool. But for me it's like I could have did this better. And I wasn't really concerned about my voice, even though I was like, yeah, no, I wasn't really concerned about it. Um, but I was just like, okay. But at the same time, I know there were certain songs with notes, like the high note in Divine. And the runs and the breath control and alumni. There's like moments and things that I got to think about, but we've been practicing. So, it's just a matter of practicing more consistently. It just makes me think, like, I don't know how these celebrities be doing it. I mean, then again, they got a team. That's really what it is. Like, they got a team to do all this other shit. You know what I mean? Like, they can hire like somebody to do the dry cleaning, and a housekeeper and all those things. And I was like, I still gotta fold my clothes. I gotta fold my laundry. You know. And plus, like, even when it comes to like the business of operations, because I think of people like Beyonce, because she's literally the blueprint of being a dope ass artist and still running her own ship, and at the magnitude of how she does it. Like, it's not like she's just some indie artist. Like, she's fucking Beyonce. You know what I mean? And I mean, of course, she has a team of people she can hire to do the different roles. Like, she has editors and stuff like that. But just knowing how hands-on and how intentional she is about her creation, I know she has a hand. I know she has a hand in everything. You know what I mean? And it's not like, okay, sure, there might be like a team of editors, but no, at some point she over somebody's shoulder, like, okay, but are you editing it how I want you to edit? But it's like, girl, how do you have time to do all this? Like, I just need to know, let me know. Yeah, but I just think about those things, but it's like, okay, I have to give myself some grace, because it's like I'm literally doing all the things, for now, until we can build a community. So yeah, and I just gotta trust the process. But whew, yeah, it was an interesting experience. It was one of the better ones. But and like I said, I was like, okay, regardless of what goes on around you, just stay true to your intentions and why you're there, and the energy that you're gonna bring, and don't let anybody like lower your vibration. And that's a challenge with everyday life. If you work in a job and you got coworkers that's pissing you off, and your boss is an asshole, and you just trying to just show up so you can pay your bills, and eventually, hopefully, work on that dream thing that you're trying to do. Um, you know, it can be a challenge, man. It can be a challenge, but here we are, right? So anyway, that was an update, since I haven't been on here in a while and I haven't talked to you all. But yeah, newsletter. It is the end of October. And because I have some emails now and the website is back up and running, um, I have to. That's another task I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to do it today. I have it as a list of things to like prep. Because I know I mentioned it before. I'm looking at the wrong time. I'm like, this look like old activities, because they are. Okay. But I do need to go back and like edit some of this stuff. Okay. So this got done. I did that before I jumped on here. Oh yeah, that's right. I gotta update that invoice. There's a few people I gotta reach out to. Okay. Oh, oops. Check the wrong thing. Yeah, so okay. So now let's get into this inventory. Okay, you know what? Actually, because this is about like an hour long, I'm going to end this live stream and I'm gonna rename it um on YouTube. That's right. I still gotta go back and rename the things on Kick. I just haven't done that because it hasn't been a priority. Like, it's just like not important. But I should, because honestly, Kick gives me more engagement than YouTube sometimes. But then again, when I go back and look through YouTube, even though people might not watch the live stream as I'm live streaming, there are people who do watch the videos. So I'm like, okay, shout out to y'all for watching your girl. I appreciate you. Um, so yeah, we're gonna end this live and then I'll jump back on. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna take a second because I'm gonna go to the bathroom, or whatever, get myself together for a little bit, and then I should be back on here maybe in like, let's say like 20 minutes or so. I'm gonna take a little break, because I actually, okay, I'll end on this note and just say that today was one of the days that I actually did all the things in my morning routine that I wanted to do. I know I mentioned that like 2 weeks ago that I was trying to do that. I think last week, because last week I worked out twice, but I want to consistently work out at least like 3 times a week. So I got up early. Okay, I did my meditation, visualizations, stuff like that, and I did my stretch and my workout, and I got up early and did my prayer and everything. And so it's just now I have to like master the amount of time that's going to take me. For one, I got to master keeping it consistent, and then like the time that it's going to take me, and then getting all those things done at the right time so I can be up and like dressed and ready to be on here at an earlier time. And be able to focus on this and then still have enough time to do the business stuff that I need to do, make the phone calls and all those things, and then work on the music stuff, like practicing and all of that. And social media. I haven't posted on social media. That's the one thing I will say, like where I was inconsistent with like the watch me work stuff that I was supposed to do last week. I made sure I was posting on social media like every day. So I have to do that. I gotta make a post today. So yeah, I'll do that probably in this break period. But actually, no, I want to separate that though, because I think that's why it takes me so long. So I'm like, well, at least I'm being productive because we're posting on social media, or we're promoting the brand. That's what's happening. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but you were supposed to be doing all this other stuff too. Like, I mean, that's important, but I think for me, what I need to be better at is like, you know, splitting up the time and focusing on the operational things that needs to be done, then the social media stuff. And then if I'm taking a break, take a break, and not let the work and the break mingle. And I kind of did that today earlier. So usually my breakfast time would like expand too long. So I'm like, okay, let's be intentional about the time, and then also be intentional about like not being on my phone when I do this. And so I was reading a little bit, which is always something that I wanted to do consistently. But it's a process. It's a process, and you're not always going to have it all figured out. I think for anybody that's like doing personal development and focusing on entrepreneurship and all these things, and you see all these videos and these think pieces of like, oh, you got to work out at 3 in the morning, and you have to have your coffee at this time, and shower, dress, ready to check your emails by 8 o'clock. And then there's like this idea that you have to have this like perfect structured thing, and like, and I get it, because it's like I look at all those videos like, okay, what are the top entrepreneurs doing, and those are those habits. But you also have to keep in consideration they have a team of people that help them stay on track. You know what I mean? Like they can afford an assistant, they can afford to have like the daily tasks. Because I was really thinking about it this morning, and it's not giving an excuse, but it's just really realistically looking at the circumstance. I I'm the one that has to wash my clothes, make my meals, and prep all these things, put my clothes up, just those little housekeeping tasks. People in those positions have people hired to do that. They got chefs, They got assistants to keep them on schedule. They got a housekeeper. They got somebody to clean the home. They got somebody on dry cleaning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are jobs when they've worked themselves to a space where they can afford to hire people to do those things. And so when you're trying to find the balance of like your everyday life, especially people who got kids, child, I can only imagine like trying to feed these little gerbils out here, these little children. I know that's a task in itself. God bless the kids. We love the kids, but having those expectations for yourself, I feel like if you're trying and you're working at it, like give yourself some grace. Of course, you want to be hard on yourself and work hard to elevate, but I feel like it's such an American thing to be so like, you have to hustle and bustle. You gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta wake up at this time, you gotta do this, if you're trying to be the next top, whatever. But it's like, we should also highlight, you know, taking care of ourselves. We should also highlight like rest. That's not a bad thing. I think there's a difference between like laziness, procrastination, and rest. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'm somewhere in between all of that. There's times where I'm like, okay, Narice, you're being lazy. And then there's times where it's like, all right, Narice, I know you want to get this done, but you really need to rest because you're tired right now. Like you're exhausted. It's okay. Like the task is going to be there tomorrow and you're going to get it done. You might not get it done exactly the time you want to, you know, but and then it's like also finding the balance of like, okay, but you don't want to do that every day. You know what I mean? But like you do should prioritize taking care of yourself and being mindful, like, okay, yes, I have these ambitions. I want to get to this space. Of course, I want to get to that elevated space in my life where I, can hire people who can focus on those things. But while it's me, I have to balance, okay, this is the house chores that I need to take care of. I need to feed my cat. That's my baby, and then also take care of myself. And then as well as do the business side of things and then do the creative side of things. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I give myself grace. Um, and I know that I'm getting better with my time management. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm getting better at it. And I'm proud of myself for that. I know last week, like I said, last week wasn't as productive as I wanted it to be, but I still was posting on social media. I still did my live streams when I didn't feel like it. And I was posting every day on all platforms, pretty much every day, every platform possible was getting music from me. And then it made me remember, like, you got a lot of content out here. Like, aside from just the Divine EP, I have songs on SoundCloud. I did Without You, lyric video, audio, and then from my guitar practice, I also have a run challenge for anybody, who could keep up with the runs. No shade. It's just, I know my skill sets. But there's a song Misery that I did years ago, and I did like during my guitar practice. I was just kind of like freestyling. And I was like, ooh, okay. And so, and I took a snippet of that and made it a challenge. So if all the vocalists out there want to try it, go on my Instagram page or on my social media. I posted it on my pages, and you can see it there. It's there, and you can listen to the run and see if you can do it. But yeah, like, just all those elements of content. It's like, okay, you know what? There is a lot for me to put out here. And mind you, I haven't even done an official project in a long time, but I've been doing a lot of work and I'm really proud of it. And, and sometimes I give myself a hard time because it's like, I'm not exactly where I want to be, or I feel like I'm not doing enough, but like, I know I am, and I'm a lot farther and a lot better than I was years ago. And I know I just keep getting better. And of course, like, okay, I want to be, there's times where I take little dips, but it's always a progression forward. And, especially with like my habits and my lifestyle compared to what it was years ago. Like I said, like, I'm not really like out here drinking or smoking or partying and all this stuff and like hanging around people. Like, I'm really like focused, but also at the same time, I know that's not everything, but when it comes to this work, I know I do a great job at staying persistent. And, I keep going and I don't let it stop me or, I don't let it alter what I have going on. I'm like, okay, I messed up here. I know I could have been better here. So now let me progress forward. And then I know, like, okay, even with practicing guitar, practice enough. I know when I wasn't doing these live streams, it was all focused on the flash drives. And I did like maybe like one guitar practice every like once in a while. But then I was like, all right, you know what? I know that I can consistently live stream at least twice or three times a week. So let's make that a scheduled thing and let it be centered around the music. So, that's why we're here anyway, right? The music. So that's why we have a consistent live stream for guitar practice and vocal practice. And I'm proud of that. Um, and at one point there was times where I was not playing guitar at least once a week, and I know I should probably practice more, but the goal is to, instill the habit, which brings me to Atomic Habits. Okay. Shout out to Atomic Habits by James Clear. Um, you know, I often reference that book, even though I haven't read it all the way, but I've seen like synopsis of it and I've read like a little bit of it. But the main thing with it is stop giving yourself these monumental tasks, or that's not the word I want to use. These, like just gargantuan tasks. Like, okay, I want to be a billionaire. So I like the example that I use all the time. I gotta wake up at 4 in the morning. I gotta do my workout, this and that. But say you haven't worked out in like 5 years. You can't expect yourself to just switch your lifestyle in a way where you're going to do hour-long workouts every day of the week. And so that's why for me, I've been pacing myself just to instill the habit, even though it might not always be consistent, but I'm doing it. Um, like, okay, like my workouts, it might not be the same day, but it's the point of like, okay, I'm doing the workout, and make it a small thing first and then let it build into something that you can ultimately curate a part of your schedule, and curate to be something that you do consistently. And that's kind of like where I am with like working out right now. So I mean, it's not perfect, but we're instilling the habit, just like I was instilling the habit of live streaming, getting these products together, making these, putting the website together, um you know stretching, working out, eating healthier, um and practicing the instruments, doing vocal practice, and I've shaped it in a way where it can be something that's engaging for my audience and, for you guys, but also to keep me consistent, and it's like, okay, if I make this a group situation, with me and the fans, then, it forces me to stay consistent and show up. And so I was like, all right, Tuesday guitar practice. All right, well then I look, that's what we doing, you know? And it forces me to be accountable and consistent, but also it's something that's going to build the skill as well as the habit. So, it's all the process. It's a journey. And I'm just trying my best not to be hard on myself, but at like I'm that balance. I'm finding the balance of not being hard on myself, but then also not, giving myself too much grace where I let too much slide. Like I want to be in a happy space in the middle where it's like I hold myself accountable, but I'm still ambitious. I'm still ambitious enough to keep getting better. And, as I'm instilling the habits, and it's like, all right, once we got the habit down pack, now let's elevate the habit. Let's push ourselves to, don't let it live in the comfort zone. So even with my workouts now, I know like in the beginning I would start, I'm running on like the elliptical. I think that's what it's called. And I would do it for like 20 minutes, and I would do it and then I would stop a little bit and then like not stop, but I would like slow down. No, there was times where I was stopping and like maybe the first 2 or 3 times. But now I'm in a space where I'm I'm able to get through 20 minutes straight without stopping. And then so now I'm like, okay, well, let me try to go for like 25 minutes rather than 20, and child, I'll be over it. I'm like, damn, girl. But it's like, it's those little added elements, or it's like, oh, okay, I was stopping before. Now I'm going all the way through the whole workout. And then like now I'm like singing along to the songs. I'm like, oh girl, look at us singing in the middle of our workout, like breath control. What is that? Like, girl, I didn't know before, but now you know. So it's like, it's those little added element things that I'm really like proud and excited about. But then also like, okay, we got the habit. So now what's the next thing? How do we elevate this? And so what I'll do is I'll pay attention to the speed, because I know like, when I was slowing down in the beginning, then it's easier for me to go all the way through without stopping. So I'm like, okay, I picked up on that. So now, all right, let me push myself to speed it up just a little bit more, you know? So it's like, it's good that I can go the whole workout without stopping, but now I don't want to get comfortable in that space. Let's keep elevating it. So that's what I'm doing. I don't know. I felt inclined to say all this. Yeah, but okay, because I wanted to mention how my morning routine went, because I talked about that in my other live stream where I was like, I'm like hesitant about being consistent or having a routine just out of like a space of fear that it can be interfered with or messed with or tampered or whatever, based on like my environment. But I'm just like, girl, we don't got time to care for that. Like, like whatever goes on, like, again, to that point of what I was saying, like of the mentality that I had going into my performance, like I need to, regardless of anything going on outside of me, I have to be centered within myself. So regardless of, if there is a inferno happening, but I'm so secure within me, like I can operate and move within the chaos. Of course, not ignoring it, like you want to be aware of your surroundings, but not let your surroundings throw you off of your square. You know what I mean? Like you're just so solid in what you do. All right, I can adapt. Like if it's something that requires me to take my attention away from what I'm focusing on, then I can adapt. But it's not throwing me off my game, you know? And I think that's the balance of what I need to do. And then also getting myself out of moving in fear and move in love. Mm. Shout out to Ralph Smart, because he says that often, you know, don't move in fear, move in love. And sometimes it can be hard to do that. It ain't easy. It's a simple concept, but it's not always easy. But oh well, like anything worth having in life won't come easy. So, and so now I'm kind of in that space. And I guess that mentality is moving me through like pursuing music too. Just like, there's moments where it's like, girl, what's the point? Child, they gonna cancel you. What's the point? Why are you even doing this music thing? But it's like, and then also word to Byron Allen, burning the knee pads. I don't have the space to move in fear. He's also another person that talks about that, you know, like as black, especially as a black woman, and just as black people, we can't afford to move in fear, because there's already so much set up systematically and, racially to keep us behind anyway, you know, and naturally we're a resilient people. So we don't have the luxury to move in fear. you know there's been so much that's been put in our way to cause us to be fearful of advancing past it, but that's intentional, you know and learning that, understanding that helps me learn that, you know girl, we got to move in love, fuck the fear. And yeah, there are things to be fearful and cautious of, but we can't let that stop us from our mission and the purpose of why we're here, right? So I don't know. I just kind of went in a tangent here, but I think it's a good tangent. Either way, um, that's my TED talk, and I'm gonna take a little break of a moment, and I'll be back and we'll be working on inventory and possibly starting on the newsletter. I definitely have to update that invoice, so I'll do that too. Okay. Yeah. All right. So cool. Well, I will be back in a little bit, guys. So I hope this live stream finds you well, and I'll be back to officially work on inventory.